that's why I don't want her by the electronics, because she's just chewing everything right now.
Yeah.
And
probably want her to get her some cheap
she got
pet
lost
toys.
earlier today. Which was
Oh, that's fantastic.
like, where's the cat? Hiding under the recliner. And now attacking my arm. Damn it.
Yeah, we need to get her some toys. We can get those from like dollar store for pretty fucking cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
There she goes, babe.
Okay, I can't do anything about it right now.
She's over by the guitars.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let her explode for a second.
Okay.
Not too long.
Alrighty.
Well, she mostly explores. She's mostly interested in just kind of finding places to hide. She doesn't really seem to like fuck with anything that's down there.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to New Color Entertainment with this Matt.
There he is.
It's Juice.
And it's Squeegee Sidechick Wednesday!
Sidechick Wednesday!
What's that, baby? As you rock to and fro.
So we have a new addition to the house.
Yet another one.
Yet another one. Yeah.
It's Ari's fault.
Okay.
She manipulated me.
I did not.
No, Matt, let's just be honest. You are a weak-minded son of a bitch.
You read the post, damn it! She manipulated me.
No.
Jedi mind tricked you? That's what
yes.
it is?
No,
you know
Matt,
I only works on the weak minds, right, babe?
You're SAWFT soft.
I may be soft.
You also know that Jedi mind tricks only work on the weak minded.
But I'm also a kitty person.
You are a kitty person.
Well, I guess I can blame you for that.
Where is she?
I think she's under the chair again.
So, we have a kitten, and I will just recount you guys real quickly for anyone who cares and has not heard the story already. We were at wrestling practice, and I pulled up, and you can hear this baby kitten just screaming bloody murder, basically, like, just repeatedly, as I was pulling up to the house. And figured at some point, like, yeah, I was obviously in distress, but something at some point, the mom would come to it, blah, 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 blah. And I thought maybe I'd be able to see it, and I couldn't from where it was. And eventually, I had to just crawl through these bushes and over a... Oh, God, yeah. Hi, Kyle. Thanks for joining us. Long story short, I rescued this baby kitten that was stuck in a basement window and basically kind of nursed her back to health. And while I am also saying we're not going to keep her because we have 4 animals in the house already, and Matt's saying we're not going to keep her, then he named her. So now we're fucked.
It was an accident. Hi.
It was, but it still happened, and now we're fucked.
You cannot get comfortable under that chair.
No.
Okay. So sorry about that.
We have a black tuxedo kitty.
Take her back.
Named Newt.
The name is not Milkshake. It is Newt.
It is Newt because she's small and spry, likes to hide in things. And also our first cat, which is also tuxedo, is named Ripley, as in Ellen Ripley from Alien. And so it just seems natural to name the next baby kitty that comes in Newt.
Well, if it was natural, it would have came to you a lot quicker, because you...
I was trying to think of one, and Matt just realized, just thinking, like, we can name her Newt, because Ripley, like, fuck! Like, you named her! You're screwed!
See, it came naturally to him, though.
No, I was fine. I wasn't trying to name her. We took us like 3 months to name Ripley.
So anyway, it is Squeegee Sidechick Wednesday.
That's right, and I am about to partake in more squeegees.
We are continuing our film discussion known as The Wheel.
Yes.
And this week was my turn, where we are going to discuss the 1995 movie Crimson Tide.
Give us the facts, man.
This movie is starring Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman. Also featuring the likes of Viggo Mortensen, James Gandolfini, and as Juicy so astutely observed,
yes,
Ryan fucking Phillippe.
Yeah, as a background character.
In a non-speaking role.
Nope.
But a nice catch there by Juice. It's like throughout the movie, he's just like, I swear that's Ryan Phillippe.
I swear that's not.
And Ari's like, there's no fucking way that's Ryan Phillippe.
Wait, it's like a year before I know what you did last summer.
And then here come the credits, and there he is, Ryan Phillippe.
And I looked it up, but I couldn't find his information anywhere. But I accidentally looked that hard either.
But he's credited.
Yeah.
But it is a name credit.
He has a name credit. That's what. I'm like, you can't like. Okay, Ryan Phillippe, he's in the background. Maybe he's not like he's not a named character. Yes, he fucking is.
Maybe they have more shit for him and they're cutting.
Maybe you know what I noticed. And this is not gonna go into our good bad, but it looked like he was gonna have a speaking role in that third act.
Maybe deleted scene.
And maybe it got cut for time. Maybe it was maybe it was unnecessary. But it looked like, and I caught it. It looked like he was gonna say something.
Yeah.
When Buster was trying to get the radio repaired.
Yeah, it's possible.
So.
So this film is also directed by Tony Scott.
Great Tony Scott.
Who also directed Top Gun. And Unstoppable, another Denzel Washington movie with Chris Pine. It was written by Michael Schiffer, who did a lot of the Call of Duty games, actually, which is interesting.
Makes sense.
And Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman. And the other writer really didn't do anything. So, synopsis. On a U.S. nuclear missile sub, a young first officer stages a mutiny to prevent his trigger-happy captain from launching his missiles before confirming his orders to do so.
Okay.
That is a terrible synopsis of this movie. A terrible
synopsis, yeah.
That is god-awful.
That's not what happens.
This is an ambiguously gray moral tale that just so happens to happen on a nuclear sub.
Well, and also apparently was based on a real event.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, from the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the 60s. It was a Russian sub. I didn't read that much into it, but I saw it somewhere that it was based on something that happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, right on. It is given a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, with a whole lot of different. It ranges. It ranges.
Yeah.
It is a divisive movie, and I'm pretty sure this house is pretty divided as well.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't hate it as much as I thought I was going to hate it, but I'm still not impressed by it.
I do not live here, so I have...
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
I'm the neutral party.
Everyone's initial reactions. Let's start there first. My pick, so I will start.
Okay.
This is still one of my favorite Jerry Bruckheimer films.
Okay.
However, after initial discussions and preliminary hearings that me and Ari had over the past week, I see some of the issues, which does lower its score a little bit, but it is still one of my favorite Jerry Bruckheimer movies.
Okay.
And I will go into that in the good, bad, and the ugly, but overall, I think this movie is a phenomenal moral tale, shot very well, built very well. And there's something about, to me, good dialogue-driven action movies. Very little actual action, but fantastic dialogue propels it forward. And some of the action, some of the fighting is in the dialogue. And that is part of the reason I absolutely adore this movie. Juice, your initial reaction. Or actually, you're the neutral party.
Yeah,
the neutral party go first.
Well, neutral party, but also this is my first viewing, and I enjoyed it. I think this movie is well done, well shot, very well acted. There is a very good amount. There's a large amount of tension in this movie, and as I'm going through it, I'm immersed in what is happening. I'm invested in the characters. I'm invested in the drama, to a point. But overall, I enjoyed it. I can understand why it's divisive, which I will give my thoughts on said divisiveness later. But I had a good time with it. And that's kind of all I have to say on that front. On a first viewing, to be honest. We'll go into detail. I'll try to go into detail later, but yeah, that's it. All right.
Okay.
The word that comes to mind for me for a lot of this stuff is unearned.
Okay. Can you speak up? I don't know if the microphone caught that.
I will repeat. The things that come to mind for this movie, the word in particular, is unearned.
Okay.
And I will go into more detail about what that means. It's not to say that there weren't still good moments throughout the film that I was not invested or intrigued by or what have you not, but in general, I was constantly being taken out of the moment because of stuff that I felt was unearned. Stuff being set up for conflict that didn't feel like there was a natural progression to get there, perpetually throughout the film, like kind of leaps being taken in terms of like connections in logic and the continuity. I actually really didn't like the way some of it was shot, and there was this constant playing of the score underneath that kind of try to help build up the hype around it, but it's going all the fucking time.
Speaking of that, real quick, it is a Hans Zimmer picture, and Hans does do that.
No, his score sounds like that. The decision on where the music goes is up to the director.
That's fair.
So that's the issue I have, but I'm going to go into more detail on it. Again, I'm going to have more to say with regards to the good, the bad, and the ugly, but that's my overall estimation, that it's unearned. A lot of the
and also, if you think about it, Tony Scott does that a lot. If you think about Top Gun, there's not a whole lot of scenes where music is not playing.
Well, and we can talk about the comparisons on his style of other movies and this one, because I think I have a particular beef with this one, but I would like to save that for my bad, honestly.
Okay. Alright, so those are our initial thoughts. As you can see here, there is a middling party.
Very middling.
A lower negative view party.
Yes.
And a positive view party. So this is going to easily be, so far, our most divisive wheel episode yet. So this is going to be fun.
And it was only a matter of time, to be completely honest. I mean, we're just because you had picked it, and obviously this just goes to it goes to explore our taste in film.
Yeah.
Well. Do you mind if I actually add in here? Maybe you were right the first time when I kind of jumped in and said, no, just go ahead. But is it better if we do the one extreme and then the other, and then have the middle party kind of like split the difference afterwards?
That may be something we do going forward. I think next time we'll try it that way, and then we'll see which one's the best way.
I know, I'm saying we're not going to always have a middling party.
No, but I felt like this one we were.
That's why I was saying, you said initially like I was going to go and then you're going to choose. I'm saying, can we do that this time? Because we didn't do that just a second ago.
So both of you go and then I go at the end?
Okay.
You're the tiebreaker.
On good, bad, and ugly?
I may not be much of a tiebreaker.
Alright, so I'm going to go good.
Okay.
And then you'll still be a little bit of a tiebreaker.
I may be a little bit of a tiebreaker. Here, okay, let me just kind of put this out there.
Okay.
When it comes to certain topics, I don't have a very deep opinion on them. Certain topics.
Well, so part of that is also why I'm saying for you to go after us is that once you've heard from us, then it may affect your opinion. Not affect your opinion, but you may be able to comment on based on that information.
Okay, that's fine.
So my good. I'm going to start with the acting. Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman put on a masterclass of playing off each other. It is so much fun to watch. And the story really gets told through them talking to each other. There's minor disagreements to intermediate disagreements to major disagreements to a total breakdown in communication to now our actions decide things. And it's all through them playing off each other where this story is told. The supporting characters, Viggo Mortensen, the guy from The Rock, because I don't know his actual actor name.
Yeah.
But he's very good in this movie as well.
Are you talking about
Rivetti?
Rivetti.
Okay.
James Gandolfini is amazing. Bossler does a great job at what he's doing. Everyone does a good job, but Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington really carry and propel this movie forward as two opposing leads should do.
And at this point, Ari's pouring her wine.
I am.
Secondly, on my good, the shooting of the film, it does a very good job for me of making you feel very claustrophobic and in a submarine. I mean, they use the angle shots very well to me. Everything is very tight quarters, and it makes you feel like you're kind of in this fucked situation, and this really closed space with all this tension, which really adds to the suspense, which is built beautifully by the writer and director. The suspense was my next part of the good thing. Like, to this day, when it gets to the ending, which I'm actually not going to reveal what happens at the end, because I still feel like the build, we will talk about spoilers, we'll talk about things that happen, but I want the end to stay ambiguous, because it's so well built. To me, my stomach still gets butterflies at that moment when you finally realize how this is going to resolve. Timmy, the use of lighting, the use of facial expressions specifically. The nonverbal is almost as powerful as the verbal, which again goes into the acting. But on a submarine movie, there's not much else you have besides acting. The special effects still hold up to this day, I would argue. There wasn't any
though.
Huh?
It wasn't much special
There's
effects.
not much, but there's enough to where it could have ruined the movie.
Yeah.
But they used it so sparingly that it really held up over time.
I mean, what are the only special effects I really saw out of that were the missile exploded.
The missile explosions, the actual subs in the water,
and the fire in the galley.
Those to me,
the fire was not. Well, it was special effects. It was practical.
Yeah, those
That's still effects.
So I guess I'm talking more CGI.
There wasn't a whole lot of CGI. I didn't think
no, the only one I can think of is the torpedo hitting the countermeasure and veering.
That's what I was.
I don't remember that being. You're maybe right because I didn't view it as.
But
CGI.
It still looks very good looking back at it. But it's a minimal effect.
I mean, it's a colorful explosion underwater.
It's not like this is a 10 out of 10 movie because a torpedo hit a countermeasure and veered right. No. So special effects hold up. I'll get to the bad later, but overall, that's my good.
Okay.
Would you like to go with your good?
Yes.
Just the good.
Can I tell you what my good, bad, and ugly are going to look like? Just so you know.
Sure.
Okay. I don't have much good for this movie.
Okay.
I have a bunch of bad. I actually don't have much ugly though.
Okay.
So you're going to hear more from me in the bad part, but I am going to give it some good here. And I thought that Denzel did a very good job. I thought Gene Hackman did a good job up to a point.
Okay.
And that's going to probably go more into my bad category, but I did think that in the more serious parts of the roles that he was expected to do, then it was very interesting, like engaging, watching him and Denzel doing kind of this back and forth. When he had to ramp up his emotion, that's when I kind of like checked out a little bit. But up to those points, it was fine. And Denzel, of course, is fucking Denzel. So, he's good in basically everything that he does. Outside of that, the acting was okay. It wasn't anything like phenomenal or anything that I really needed to remember, except for Rivetti, actually, because I've never seen him really in anything else except for like a short stint in another Jerry Bruckheimer film in The Rock where he gets way less lines.
Yeah.
It almost feels like either this movie is to make up for that, even though this movie came out first, or they had a bunch of lines ready for him in The Rock, and then they cut him because he likes to use a lot of the same people. I remember somebody else being in another Bruckheimer film or whatever that we've seen that like was in this film. So I was like, oh, he probably likes to use a lot of the same people for his stuff.
I'm shocked Michael Biehn wasn't in this film.
Was he in another Bruckheimer film?
Yeah, it was.
Which one?
He's in The Rock.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I forget that he's in there half the time.
Yeah, but he does such a good job in the little bit.
He does a good job in everything he does.
Because Michael Biehn is amazing! Alright, that's a different conversation for another
day. That's a different conversation for a different movie.
Yeah.
Alright, anyway, so the other good that I had was that there were moments that had me invested and like listening and like, you know, worried and not
emotional.
No.
Your emotions were connected.
I was connected to the movie, yes. I am trying to come up with other ones.
You don't have to force it.
No, because
I just want you to give the movie its flowers where it deserves its flowers.
Yeah, and I think that's about it.
That's fine. I do want to add something though before you jump in.
That's fine.
I want to add great, and this isn't. You don't have to have anything. But I want to have great, and it's literally one thing, and it's your favorite part of the movie.
Excellent.
Okay? Just, we don't have any, like, this was my favorite part.
Yeah.
And I really like doing that with all movies,
That's
and
fair.
it's just been missing.
Yeah.
So, my great, like, my favorite part of the movie, like, if I'm going to talk about any part of the movie to anybody, it's going to be when the moment that communication breaks down between Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington.
Okay.
And they start screaming over each other, kind of talking to each other, kind of talking to other people, but both of them, for a good minute and a half, are just hollering over each other. Mm-hmm. And it is this, it's that moment like in Row, Row, Row Your Boat when that second person comes in. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Round Robin.
Is it called a round robin? I don't think it's called. I thought it was called a canyon or something like that.
We call it a round robin or a round for short.
Okay, a round.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that kind of effect. Like you're trying to listen to this, but you're also trying to listen to this, but together it actually kind of comes together well, and it really ramps up this breakdown of communication. And he hits him with the word mutiny. And it's the first time that Denzel's been listening to him because they've just been talking over each other. No one's listening to each other. And it's the first time where Denzel had stopped talking enough to hear him. And one of the first words he hears is mutiny. And you see him and his facial's like taken aback, like mutiny. We're going there. And from then on, the movie just takes off.
Are you referring to the scene when they're having when
they're actually trying to figure out like what they're
gonna do as far as the EAM?
Yeah. And Denzel just starts, and then he says, "You're relieved of your command," and he says, "No, I don't see how you can relieve me of my command." And then they start talking over each other, and it just slowly ramps up to them screaming over each other.
Yeah.
And I just think it is one of the best dialogue scenes, in my opinion. And I love watching it every time it comes on. So that's my great.
I don't have one.
You don't have a great. Okay. So a great for you.
So it caught me off guard.
Okay.
Completely, because I didn't expect anything in a movie like this. And
Oh, yeah, okay. I know where you're going.
Yeah, of course, I had to go there. Because, like, I didn't expect it in a movie like this. So it's like, okay, because I'm just, like, a hardcore geek and I have to geek out. But the use of geek trivia, or just geek references, that was awesome to me. But not only was it awesome because it was a geek reference, but it was the way it was employed because you have... Denzel Washington's character using a form of relatability to a younger person who he's in charge of, so that they so it can establish a relationship between them while not affecting the chain of command.
Yeah. And
he does it twice.
Yes.
The Silver Surfer reference and the Star Trek reference.
Yes.
Which is great. I think I think moments like that are special when they're utilized.
Yes.
Simply because there's an understanding that we are now in a generation where geek culture has basically kind of overtaken the world.
It's become mainstream.
Exactly. And during a time when it isn't, it makes it that much more special because it shows that the previous generation is beginning to understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
And it gives that, and again, it brings everybody to kind of a level playing field. Again, it's like, okay, you understand where I'm coming from. I like that. I respect you. I respect you for coming to me with that.
Well, and keep in mind also, at least for Star Trek and probably also for Silver Surfer, remember when this film was made. It was made in 1995, so the persons who are making it, I think, are in their 30s or 40s. They might have been in their 50s or whatever.
Possibly.
And so, I think, like, Don Simpson, who's one of the producers for this film, was born in the 40s. I think it was 46, and he passed away in 96, or like not too long after The Rock actually came out. So he was like maybe 50 when this film came out. I know, she's fucking attacking my elbow with every...
Because you're wrong about this movie, that's why.
No, I was just gonna say, like, please keep in mind, like, when the people who made this film, when they made it, they're probably also, when they're talking references to Next Generation, not Generation, to Star Trek, because it's the original series they're talking about, and they're talking about Kirby Silver Surfer, which was probably published like back in the 60s.
50s, 60s.
Yeah, exactly. So this has been their youth. So they are now old enough to be making films and being able to reference things from their their youth, from their pop culture.
And again, the reason I bring it up as a great is because, like I said, you don't expect it in movies like this, and that's what makes it special, because it's it's like a little pinch of salt. It's like a little pinch of salt, a little pinch of flavor. It's that.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, that's the generational like carry over as well.
It is a callback to the pop culture that the director, writer, and all that grew up with as well. But I also want to point out another reason that scene is so good is because of the moral of this story is, this is like nuclear war that we're talking about. That is the subject of this story, nuclear war. And we have a submarine captain, and you have an XO who's kind of leading the story. And, these are people that we as civilians look at and are like, oh, well, these are above and beyond us. They have cooler heads. They know what to do, yada, yada, yada. And those scenes are really important because it's like, they're also regular fucking people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's
and that's where these things come from, is regular people.
I just realized my great, and it's not like a great, but it is my favorite part of the movie.
I will take a great. I will take a favorite part.
Yeah, even a favorite part.
I'll take it.
My favorite part of the movie is actually the scene where they're all kind of hanging out in the captain's mess, and they're having the conversation about war.
Okay.
Yes, I love that.
That is my favorite part in the whole scene. And it's the one part that actually has me the most emotionally invested, because I don't know how it's going to turn out. And throughout the rest of the movie, I don't care. The stakes are, they're not going to launch a nuclear weapon and end the world. I know that's what they're kind of trying to get at.
There are plenty of movies where they have.
But this was not one of them. I already felt it in my bones watching it before I ever saw it before. And I know Jerry Bruckheimer and John Simpson's style, that's not how this is going to play out.
They don't do
pessimistic endings, like bad. No, that's not how that's not what their audience wants to see, and they're right. However, they are there for the drama that gets them to that point of thinking that it might happen. But what I was most intrigued by was the scene where it's just them talking about the nature of war, and kind of it's setting up also the differences between these two men's perspectives.
Yes.
And that scene is the best one, because also, if I recall, there's not a whole lot of music going on in the background, if there is any at all.
No, I think that one's very quiet.
Yeah.
And that's what it should be on a fucking sub. But I understand it's a movie, so of course we have orchestrals here and there. But that is what allows me to feel like I'm getting to know these people far better than any other scene they've done.
And
I'll take that though.
And the arguments they're making are great as well, and intriguing. And I want more. That's what it does very well. I can't speak to the rest of the film.
Well, and that's the thing is what I think they were going for is that argument played out in action.
No, and I think they executed it poorly at times throughout the rest of the film.
Okay,
but
we'll get
that
to that
scene right there, they did incredibly well. But that's because they really just let their actors act. They just gave them the script, and it was a decent and well-written script. And I think because it was probably the crux of what they were trying to make the film about.
Uh-huh.
And so this scene is basically what the rest of the movie is going to center on, whether we realize it or not. And so it was well written, and then it was well acted. I can't even say it was well directed, in that only you gave two incredibly veteran actors this really decent, short scene that kind of established their characters without any exposition that they have in other parts of the fucking film. Mm-hmm. And I wanted more. I wasn't excited about what they gave me after that, but this part is what got me more excited for the rest of the film.
And this is why I wait to do the intro, because I completely forgot to share the stream.
Well, I shared it on Facebook.
But I did not share it in our stream.
No, you did not. All right, so...
but you're good now.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we've done our good and great.
No.
Oh, we haven't?
He has not done his good.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
No. And that's the whole point. That's the thing about the discussion like this is to have a discussion and still be able to make sure everybody
I think going forward we should do good, bad, ugly, and do the great last. Not this time.
I think you could argue that, because I think you should start with your favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like when it's so raw and you're coming right out of a movie, like your favorite part is what you want to talk about first.
It's the carrot and the stick. You give them like all the good for the good, something bad, and then something good. So you're the good, bad, ugly, and then but also.
This is why you need to be in management.
Yeah, probably.
Management always gives the compliment sandwich.
Yeah.
It's what you're doing well, a bunch of shit that you're doing wrong, and then something you're doing well.
Yeah, how we can move forward from here,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
When I see the word mutiny, I think of Wally when the captain constantly screams.
Oh my god, I watched that movie like more than once.
I love that movie.
That might have to go on the wheel.
I love that movie. Anyway,
it is really good.
So going back to that scene you were discussing as part of for part of my good, Denzel, Gene Hackman, great performances. I didn't really have any problems with Hackman at all. Great performances on both ends. The supporting cast all does a really great job. Steve Zahn's just there to be there. Ryan Phillippe.
Yeah, I feel like his part was bigger in the deleted scenes.
Probably, yeah, both him and Ryan Phillippe had bigger roles in the deleted scenes, but we'll never know. Anyway, going back to that scene, I also really enjoyed that scene as how it was written and how it was acted, because it did give you a sense of who all these characters are and what their relationship is going to be going forward, and showing you that scene was basically Hackman's character testing Hunter to see where he's gonna land as far as the decision, or as far as the topic of war. I thought it was just very intriguing as well.
High strange.
As much as my opinion on as much as my opinion on that, I don't really have much of an opinion on it, or at least I try not to. I still believe the discussion of the topic, especially when you see it and hear it to try to get a better understanding from two different parties, is interesting to me at any point. I really enjoy another good for me. Something else I really liked when Hunter was leaving his family to get shipped off. The line he said to his wife, "I'll see you in my dreams." That was nice. That was a nice touch. Yeah. I've never heard anybody say that, and I think it's really mean. It's really powerful when you're probably not gonna see somebody, when you're probably gonna see somebody for the last time, when you're gonna see a loved one for the last time, probably, because obviously tomorrow is never guaranteed, especially when you're in the service. The way it was shot, going back to what you said about how everything was very close quarters, so tight, I will agree. I also enjoyed it because it made everything feel more intimate. Especially when you get to those one-on-one scenes, like with Hackman and Washington and Denzel in the captain's quarters. I also really liked that scene because it was, basically the captain just saying, "Look, I'm in charge. If you got something to say, you say it to my face, but you say it in private." And that was basically the gist of the message.
And he's not wrong.
And he's absolutely not wrong. Mm-hmm. The thing about this movie is it's the subject of ethics and also the chain of command when you're working in the service, because the question, and this may go into the bad or the ugly. This probably could have been an ugly, but it always kind of brings up the divisiveness of when do you have to question the chain of command.
Yes, and that's
basically what this movie is about.
Yeah.
To a point, I believe, but no. The score.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. You're our music guy.
Yeah, I kind of am. I enjoy a fair amount of Hans Zimmer's music.
Other Hans Zimmer movies?
The Dark Knight trilogy.
There you go.
I was surprised he's done more shit from.
He's done more.
No, from like Jerry Bruckheimer.
I'm pretty sure he has.
That score sound like The Rock.
Who did Pirates?
That was Hans Zimmer to a point, but it was also Klaus Belfoff.
Oh, okay.
He did the main theme. So I really enjoyed the score. I was really trying to get into it when it was playing, and it does a really good job during the third act to build up the tension. I can understand where you're coming from, where there's points where it's not necessary.
It's consistent, and I'm
tired of it. As far as the music overall, I think it does a really good job of playing with the story that's being told.
You could say the score insists upon itself.
You could say that if you want to.
So that's my good.
All right, so everyone has done their good. Overall, there is some good things. There is some great things about this movie. Now we get into it. So I'll start with my bad.
Let's get it on!
So we had a conversation. I don't know where you land on it at this point, but I would like to point out. We had a conversation before we watched the movie again that what Ari remembered from it is that Gene Hackman's character seemed racially coded.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have the balls to really make him a racist.
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen it up to this point, and I feel like part of that is my white privilege. But this time, I decided to look for it.
Okay.
Because she had brought it up. And I saw certain parts of the movie where I'm like, if I had grown up with the experience of racism, if I had grown up with having to deal with it, I could see how this would come off. So what I want to say is I think it toes the line. And I can see how that could not be popular for some people. It still doesn't bother me. But I do want to acknowledge I see where you were coming from when you said that last week, sweetheart.
Well, and I want to point out that, just to add, to let you know, I actually retract that to a certain extent, because I didn't see it as much as I ever thought I was seeing it before. Mm-hmm. It is the end, conversation they're having.
The end conversation, and there was a couple other things.
It's like, therefore, it's wrong.
Well, God damn it. There was, what was some of the other parts? Shit, now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of any. But again, that's because it gets disarmed so much that I immediately forgive it because it's like, that's not what they're going for. They're more going for a hard-headed war. We had just started watching The Dark Knight Rises before this movie. And we're kind of going through the Nolan trilogy just on the side, just to fuck around and find out. And they had a conversation at the very beginning of that movie about getting rid of Commissioner Gordon in the spring because he's a wartime commissioner and this is peacetime.
Yes.
So we need more of a politician in office. We need someone who's going to play the game.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what we're seeing here. We're seeing a wartime boat captain who is one of the, they say it in there, is one of the only captains to actually see wartime left.
Who has experienced combat.
Yeah. And he may be threatened by this up-and-coming Harvard graduate master of game theory that is questioning him.
Not only that, and to add on to that, the line in the film where Hackman says the only active duty Hunter has ever seen was
a policy convention or something.
Yeah.
Policy seminar.
Policy seminar, yeah.
So that adds on to what you're saying.
It loses. He has little respect for that because you haven't been there. You haven't had to make.
You haven't
decisions.
seen what I've seen, son. Essentially.
Yeah, basically that's kind of the thing. But I see your point, and I saw moments of it, so I will give that a bad. Another bad. Some of the stakes this time felt rushed. Mainly the bilge bay scene.
Okay.
The seal off the bilge bay scene. It was always an okay scene for me, but it never really hit right. And it would never make the list of my top scenes in this movie. But now, watching it from this lens, I feel like it's just rushed. Okay. There's so much going on in this movie. And then they throw in the bilge bay scene. And it's like, fuck, there is so much going on right now. Why are you sitting there waiting? You understand, as a soldier, what needs to happen here. I understand questioning it the first time, but he has questioned it like 4 fucking times before he actually does it.
So it isn't so much a questioning, it's a hesitation.
Yeah, but 4 hesitations as a soldier, like, that's a lot. And then it just never gets brought up again. So it's literally just there for Denzel to make a tough decision. Mm-hmm. And that's like, okay, well then that's not necessary to the story. You could have cut that out and still had a good movie. So it's in my bad, but I don't hate the scene, but it's not like, oh my god, I love this. More bad. You made a good point that Gandolfini kind of disappears. for a little bit. And then he goes back, and in the second or third act, he's like the main security guy for the captain on the captain's side. So for him to be that important and not have anything over here, but they have to make sure that Gene Hackman and Denzel are built up enough. But whenever you're doing that in a less than 2-hour movie, you're going to have to sacrifice someone else. And it feels like Gandolfini is the one who got left on the cutting room floor for first act build-up. Okay. We'll hit there. We'll get there. We'll get through it.
I believe she's taking notes.
I'm adding to my existing notes, yes.
Other bad.
Quick question. Do you take notes during the film, or?
During this one I did.
Okay.
Because she did this.
Okay.
Other bad.
See, I can't do that on first watches.
On first watches is very difficult, but I've seen this before.
Okay, fair enough.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I've seen it before.
Fair enough, still. I feel like I should do that with movies I've already seen, but I still can't do it.
I think you should try and do it with movies in the first watches, because it allows you to try and, like...
I don't have much else bad. I really don't. Yeah, that's it. That Gene Hackman seems like he could have been racially coded. I see where people are coming from with that, as Ari now empties her bottle of wine. And that bilge-based scene seemed unnecessary and didn't have the stakes that they were trying to have. So... We're gonna go Juice, just because I want to watch her freak.
Go to her. I need to hear her side. Her side.
So, Ari.
Okay.
You now have the floor.
She took off her glasses for this, so
for your bad only.
Oh, that's fine. I know. Okay. There's so much. So. I mentioned it earlier, and the term I use is unearned, and I feel like most of my points go to that point. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of go through each of them, and then I'll try and like tie them together as I can as I go along. First one, fucking terrible exposition during the beginning of the movie and at the end, where it was obviously exposition. And that's not how a natural news report necessarily would go when they're reporting from the front lines about an actual, like, things. They would have this back and forth, they would have this sort of report. But I get that, but it was obviously written as exposition, just being delivered as narration, basically from a.
If you want to send it for narration, fine. But I feel like that's rough. Okay.
I'm sending the fuck out because it wasn't even done. I think well, but okay, whatever. The fire in the galley is probably the first like really big red flag for me. One, there's no context. It isn't like there's like people playing music, they're dancing. All of a sudden, they're beating back this like giant fucking gas fire that has enveloped the whole stove that then spreads further. And it's just like there's no
grease fire.
Grease fires don't jump off the stove and envelop the whole fucking thing that quickly. You see a pan that has grease that's spread, and then you see how it gets to that point. They don't do any of that. It's just one shot, people are dancing and having fun. Next shot, the whole kitchen's on fire.
Different room.
I know it's in a different room, but the idea is to try to show what's going on in the ship at different points. Because at the same time, Denzel Washington's like doing a jog or whatever.
Running, yeah.
But there's no like, there's no context or build up or anything. There's like just shows someone cooking and then all of a sudden, oh my god, there's fire. Oh my god, it's out of control. Oh my god, it's worse. Like there's none of that. It just shows them the guy's like trying to beat it back with rags or whatever because it's already taken over the whole stove and then it flares up and then there's fireballs going over the whole screen. Like, at some point...
Flames on the side of my face.
Like, it doesn't show anybody trying to get to the button, and then showing them having trouble getting to there, and then, we couldn't get to it. It's just, like, why didn't you guys just suppress it? We couldn't get to it. Fire's too hot. But did they show him actually hit the button? Like, we have no idea what's going on. There's no context. it doesn't feel like any of that, they basically, I understand why they created that scene. Yeah. But the whole point is you guys could have structured it in a way that fucking makes sense, logically, simply, for storytelling purposes. You can wait.
No. I want to comment on this point because I'm agreeing with you before you move on to your next point.
Okay,
I just wanted to point out my observation because I noticed this while I was watching and I didn't say it during my bad, so I need to add on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
During
the specific fire in the galley scene, that point that you're bringing up where he gets there. Did anyone hit the kill switch? We couldn't get to it. It's too hot. And Denzel runs through the flames as the hero and bursts through and hits the button. And immediately when the fire clears, you see a guy standing a foot and a half from him to his right, who also could have lifted his left hand and hit the button.
Are we sure that wasn't just like there wasn't like someone from the someone?
No, because he was in a fire suit.
Okay.
So it was a terrible blocking decision. As you say, you can't get to this button, and then you have literally two people who are less than 2 steps away from being able to touch the button.
No, they're incompetent and couldn't reach the button as a result, and Denzel was the only one who could do it.
Yeah.
Trying to show him as being the most competent person.
Plot armor. It's plot armor.
It's plot armor, but it's also trying to show Denzel as being the most capable and the fastest and reacting, blah, 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 that he's very good and very deserving of his job. It's just a really terrible way of doing it. And that's actually another point that I bring up later on.
All right. Next one.
And so, but it's an unearned, and same thing with the petty officer who dies as a result of it, because there's no precursor. It was like he's on the floor, like collapsing or whatever. He's obviously in some distress, but I mean, he just got out of the fire. There's other people there who were in distress as well.
By the way, is that the guy that Denzel puts in charge when he leaves?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. But that guy, like, he is. I don't think it was. I don't say that because I don't remember.
It kind of looked like he was, but
I don't remember. I might think of somebody else.
Because that would be different. Because that would. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
But the whole point was that, and it might have been because I don't remember. I think it was somebody else. Yeah. But the point is that person then dies later on, but you don't really see them in any real distress to lead up to, like, all of a sudden he's in a CPR moment.
Yeah.
And I think the whole point of that is to kind of show that Denzel is starting to feel some questioning towards the captain, because he decides to run a drill at that point, and he feels the possibility it might have contributed to the other person's death because it was an unsafe move to do at a time when they were still dealing with a crisis.
Well, he also does mention that it's also there to mention, like, he's questioning the decision to do the test when it could flare up again.
Yeah, that's the whole point, is that the crisis still ongoing, and so, but I understand why they put it there. The whole point is that they did it badly.
Yeah.
So it is simply there to serve as additional conflict between the two officers, which is fine, but they need to do it with some continuity.
So I think you're right to a point, but I think it was for a different reason. Now both of them are still unearned, so I'm going to still keep it in bad. What I think the point of it was, I still think it was bad, because I want to make sure that's prefaced. I think they were badly done.
Yeah.
But the actual point was, like we said, to make Denzel look like he's the quicker thinker or whatever, when the blocking was terrible. Like, 3 people could have hit that fucking button. And then the later scene, where you see a guy straight into CPR, what Gene Hackman does to react to that, immediately cancel the test and go check on his crewmate, it was more, instead of to create conflict between Denzel and Gene, it was still to keep some of Gene's humanity, because again, these are very gray characters that throughout this movie you're supposed to be like, well, he has a point. He has a point too. He still has a point. That's a really good point. And that's kind of what this movie's going for, so they force that to give Gene some humanity and keep you somewhat sympathetic.
That's what they do as a result of him dying.
Yeah.
But the whole point of them continuing the drill without questioning the fact that this guy is in a medical issue and that we're still possible.
No, as soon as he finds out there's a medical issue, he cancels the drill.
That's my point. Doesn't finish. Right. My point is that he continues the drill.
He doesn't.
He stopped
before the CPR moment, before he dies.
Yes.
They continue the drill when it is possibly dangerous to do so, that Denzel feels may contribute to the other guy's death. The reality is, it doesn't matter why they put the scene in there. They execute it poorly, number one, and number two, to say that because of the whole unearned part, and then to say that they do it to show his humanity. They show him stopping the drill to show his humanity, but to say that they continue the drill throughout all this time to show his humanity, and then because he stops it, because he caused the whole thing in the first place. No, it is to set up some tension between Denzel and Hackman. The reason that it ends with the drill being canceled is because Gene Hackman's character does have some humanity, but the whole point of it happening is because they try to create tension.
No, but it's also there because Gene Hackman is one of the only captains to see combat, and he's actually proven right throughout the movie. Whenever anything goes wrong, throughout the rest of the movie, there is almost something else going where I am not done either yet.
It's also during my bad part. You keep jumping it on.
So I did the comment.
I had to finish my fucking comment.
It's a discussion.
Fine, go ahead.
This is gonna be fun. It's every time something goes bad, something else is compounded on top of that bad, which was the point of Gene Hackman running the drill in the first place, was that he says it, missile drills don't just happen when everything's all hunky-dory, because we may not get the orders to launch our nukes when everything's fine!
The point is that it doesn't fucking matter why they did it in the first place in terms of why the characters continue the drill. They set up the scene in general. The whole reason why Denzel made look super stupid, superhuman strong, and why Hackman seems to be kind of like an apathetic fuck by continuing the drill when Denzel just put his life on the line to try and keep this ship alive, is because they're trying to set up that tension. The problem is they execute it poorly because of all the decisions with regards to showing Petty Officer dying without any cause up to the point that he's actually dying, and then the fire raging out of control before the fire, after the fire, we don't see anything on the fire at all.
Okay.
That's the issue. It's not like the reason why, they're going to show this two different, we know it's already what's happening. And they're showing this is humanity. That's why he stops the drill. But the fact that it happens up to that point is to try and create tension between those two characters.
Yeah.
I will continue because I'm not done.
That's fine. I didn't think you were done.
Good. Awesome. Because I'm going to continue now.
Good. Great.
Awesome. So, Juice, you want to jump in before I continue?
Yeah.
I have lots to say.
No, I wanted to just add on to what you're saying because...
Don't lean back.
We're going to live on
That's fine. No, what I wanted to say was you're right. You're giving the why. You're telling us what the story's telling us.
Mm.
She's telling us what the story's doing.
Yes.
Yeah,
we understand the why. She's explaining the how.
Yes.
Yes. We know Hackman.
Thank you, Juice.
We know that Hackman's been around for a long time. He's seen shit. Shit's gonna happen, and he has to do his shit regardless of what else is happening, unless certain circumstances cause otherwise. Thus, the death of the crewmate. The test is on pause when he leaves the con to go see what's going on, and it isn't until the petty officer is declared dead that they cancel the exam, that they cancel the
test.
The test.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, he is called. He gets a message. Hey, this is medical. We have this seaman in cardiac arrest performing CPR now. Gene Hackman goes 1MC and immediately says, I have just been alerted that one of our fellow crewmen are experiencing a medical emergency. We are canceling the readiness drill.
Here's my issue, and this is ultimately what I'm going to end up saying about this one part. You mentioned the humanity of Gene Hackman's character in that he stops the test. However, this is the issue I'm going to have with that scene because I'm not sure why they decided to include it in the way that they did. Are we supposed to ultimately decide or assume that the decision to run a drill during that time frame was what caused that death? Are we supposed to assume that Denzel thinks it, even though he says it, doesn't say that?
Watch leaning back.
I know, she's back there.
Okay.
So it's one of three things. The facts, what we think a character thinks, and what we think another character thinks. And are we supposed to assume the fact is that the decision to run a drill is what caused the death? Are we supposed to assume that Denzel thinks it, even if he doesn't say so, but he kind of says so to Vigo later on? Or that Gene Hackman thinks it, and so he tries to counter it with, well, him being 300 pounds is really what actually caused his death. And that erases whatever humanity we tried to give him a second ago. Or at least it calls into question. It calls it into question. Because, why would you add that extra quote if we're worried about the humanity of this person and not talking about, how fat they were is why they actually ultimately died? And to absolve yourself of any wrongdoing, any of it.
Well, no, that's just a fucking soldier who's you're overweight and out of shape. And you're on my ship.
But why add that quote at all when the conversation was basically over? Denzel was on his way out.
Because a hard ass like Gene Hackman would have to have the last word, and that would have to be his
last word. That
would have to be his last word, is that, just so you know, it had nothing to do with it.
It was to try and change Denzel's mind about it because he didn't believe Denzel when he said it wasn't his fault.
And Denzel didn't because, again, later on, he alludes to it with Vigo.
But it still is the point. What are we supposed to get out of that exchange? I'm still kind of confused as what do they want us to have? And here's what's going to ultimately get down to the problem with this movie.
Well, wait a second here.
I'm going to finish my point before you jump in.
Well, that's a major disagreement I have, so we're going to put a pin in it.
No, because this is ultimately the whole problem. I'm just going to skip to the bottom of that, and that's the question I have about this movie in general. When both people are right, which one is wrong?
Yes.
And the problem is, this movie tries to show both point of views as being equal, though disagreeing, but clearly they are siding with one over the other.
Are they?
Yes. When Denzel is ultimately proven right, when his regulation bullshit that he's pulling out, or reason why he's and the other officers are backing him up initially, the fact the other guys have to go and bully their way into getting guns to take the ship back over, that is kind of the whole point. That the movie may be saying that even if we don't necessarily agree with this, we are still basically kind of leaning that this side is more equal or more right than the other side, even though they're both right. And the problem is that's why this movie kind of fails for me. Because if it was honestly being about both sides being right when both sides are wrong, then you would come away very clearly from there thinking, okay, yeah, I see this side, but I also see this side as a really tough decision, and I'm still kind of struggling with it emotionally. But the reality is that's not the way the movie ultimately ends up playing everything. It's why it struggles with so many things feeling unearned, because they don't follow through with their own logic.
Well, I would argue that if you took nukes out of the equation, it'd be a lot easier to side with Gene Hackman's side. It's the nukes that really push the argument over to Denzel's side.
But that is the whole point of that conversation they have in the galley, right? Or in the mess hall.
Yeah.
Is that in the nuclear world, war is the problem. War is the enemy.
Yeah.
So you can't take the nukes out of the equation because they are the fucking equation.
Yeah.
So to say like, oh, you're right, he would be. But that's not the world in which even Hackman's character was coming up in.
Yeah.
But now that we are more or less in some sort of detente peace, whatever, the Cold War is over, quote unquote, in this movie, then the nuclear weapons still exist.
Yeah.
And the impetus to possibly use them still exists. So, like, how do you operate in that scenario? And ultimately, I think also that conversation kind of goes to serve that, yeah, no, I understand that that's true, that if nuclear weapons didn't exist, then we'd be fine-ish. But they do. Denzel's right. War is the problem.
Yeah, but that does not mean he was right on everything. So the other arguments throughout the movie, was it the fire, was the captain wrong, that kind of stuff. That stuff they are going to still leave to the audience. Like, you need to make your own decision on whether this was right or wrong. We're not going to answer that for you. When it comes to nuclear war, we'll answer because it's fucking obvious. Don't just gamble with 8 billion lives at stake.
And that's fine if they're going to do those scenes well. But because they don't, they leave enough room for doubt in the audience's mind. Okay. And there's fine audiences like have, I don't know what, it's like different interpretations. That happens in movies all the time. And sometimes it's for a point. But in this scenario, they left enough open gaps in their loopholes and plot armor and so forth that it's like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about this movie, and you guys are trying to direct me towards, you guys are trying really hard to not direct me to one position or another. I know that's your point, but you're doing it anyway. And you're failing at it, which is worse.
Alright, continue with your bet.
Awesome, I will. So, the next part is, because there's so many. It is a standard action Jerry Bruckheimer movie, so it's not a good fit for the slow pace of a submarine. That was the other part of it. Like, that was the energy thing for me. It honestly was. When they're doing that whole, like, submarine battle between the other ship and they're showing the torpedoes in the water and whatnot, like, I hated them constantly cutting back to, like, 1 torpedo, 2 torpedo, 1 torpedo, 2 torpedo. Like, it was weird because there's no, like, context, there's no, like, scale for it, and you just kind of see it on the radar, the ship showing up out of nowhere in radar. I mean, I'm sure that's possible. They actually do it at some point kind of in fucking Hunt for Red October, but they also explain why that can possibly happen. And they don't do that in this one at all. It's just, oh my god, that ship over the top of us. Like, how the fuck did a goddamn giant nuclear submarine sneak up on you 600 yards outside when you guys are supposed to be doing your job at a radar? And on the radar screen, it shows up like you're supposed to be like with these concentric rings or whatever, the same way you do with like Call of Duty, right? As they get closer to you, they show up. And that does not happen, except that we had to create suspense in this film. And so that does not, with the orchestrals going on at the same time, it just did not fit for a submarine film where you're also showing these submarines going super fucking slow because they should. It's a submarine. They should be going slow in the water. They should not be zooming through at whatever 500,000 knots or whatever the fuck. they should be going slow and reacting slowly because they're giant ships in the water and that's what they're supposed to do. And that is not a good fit for the style of film that Bruckheimer and Simpson have done up to this point.
Okay.
That's another bad. So, I'll get to the energy for the Plaxton scene. I'm just going to wait for that one. There was one off statement they said at some point, and where the guy is like, and he's one of the random 8 radar operators, whatever. He's working with Rivetti, and he's like, "Why not just shoot them? Because they're so close, whatever. Like, just shoot them." And then Rivetti's like, "Duh, because it's too fucking close. Who did you fuck to get this job?" And I feel like the film was trying to show a lack of support for Denzel Washington or trust in his judgment, but then it shoots its own argument in the foot by using such a terrible way to do it. If you're going to do that, you shouldn't then thus show the stupidity of that questioning. Like, if you're going to do it, don't make it so goddamn obvious, is my point. It feels like, why would you even include that in mind? I just have to show that this person doesn't trust him, and I get that, but then it also should show why, in a legitimate manner. The problem is you're trying to make the legitimacy of people questioning him part of your fucking movie. So when that happens, it kind of devalues the argument against Denzel.
So I see your point of that scene. Here's the thing, it comes off that way, but I don't think that's why it was written.
I don't care, but that's what came off.
I get that's how it came off, and that's a bad, but it's also a bad because of how I feel it was written, was to let the audience know why he made that decision. Like, just in case you're wondering, the torpedoes did 1,000 yards to arm. Okay, continue the movie.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If you need to include that you need to. But the fact that you try and do it to kind of make it sound like there's a lack of trust somewhere on the ship in terms of Denzel's decision making. If you need to include that, I understand because he did just kind of take control and everyone's just kind of like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing, but I don't know if I agree with it. But the whole problem is that then you show that the decision to question it is a stupid one. Yeah. When you're trying to set up that the decision to question is important.
Okay.
So that was a bad decision. There's just stuff like that throughout the movie, kind of. I talked about the convenient radar. They're not very good at building up the loyalty for the captain. So like Wester and Westerberg, whatever his name is, and Zimmer, who just randomly like get recruited. I understand they've been working with him, but they don't really show good camaraderie. Gandolfini's character is the closest one that kind of like makes sense. And then which they terms it's like they show in their
Cobb's
relationship
obviously
with,
the best one because he's almost always in the room with him.
But he also explains why he's like, no, I'm not going to do this because this doesn't make any sense to me to do this. The other two, when Hackman is actively recruiting other people, he specifically names Zimmer, Wester, and Wepps by name. And Wepps, I know we know this earlier, you're like, oh, what big or is he? He's a friend of, yeah, he's a fucking bitch. I understand these characters, and his character was fine being a bitch. It sucks, and I think it's a weird way of writing
his character. His character's definitely a bitch.
His character's kind of a bitch. But okay, whatever. I'm not even considering that a bad, right?
No, yeah.
Because
it's a good portrayal of that character.
But they also try to recruit him actively. That's the point. He is not gung-ho. He doesn't just switch sides immediately. He waffles a bit. I don't understand his decision to go with them, but I kind of do. Peer pressure, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's not sure. I get it. The other two just go along, and I don't understand why they decided to choose them, because I don't really... Number one, Hackman is a very standoffish, fuck you, do it my way or the highway character. He doesn't have a lot of friends. That's the nature of who he is. He has people who might trust him, but you don't really see him demonstrating that power or that trust from them into him. It's more stated, if at all, than it is shown. And that's a failure of the movie's part.
Yeah.
And so, like, I didn't get it when they did that. I've already mentioned the music. I will continue to mention the music. Music is just overbearing at times.
Okay.
And there's even, like, part in the scene when, like, they're diving for the first time. I had a hard time understanding what they're saying because the music's so fucking loud. Okay. And it didn't need to be there. The music is there.
Choir.
Yeah, the orchestrals, when they were first doing like the Strong for the Sea, save or whatever, the God Save the People at Sea or something. When they're first diving and they're like, it's designed, a lot of times in Hans Zimmer films, and especially with Jerry Bruckheimer, it is designed to kind of, obviously with most music, it's designed to emote emotion, right? And a lot of those scenes would try to emote either like tension or like suspense, but also like inspiration and like, look at how cool our Army shit or Navy shit is, and like build authority, and like this is what we're doing, and we're like, yeah, fuck yeah, USA ain't Navy, we're doing this. You're like, everyone's all for it, and that continues throughout the fucking film, and it's just tiring. You have to give the audience a moment of pause from all of that overall hyping, inspirational bullshit background music, because then at some point it just becomes like, not noise, but there's no up and down with it. It's just constantly, steadily there.
Okay.
And it loses its impact when it needs to be there. And so that was a big issue I have with the music. I will get to 2 more points before I'm almost done.
No, that's fine.
The Bilge Bay happens, and then it's never spoken of again.
Yeah.
So I understand it was there to kind of create the first real moment that Denzel Washington had to make a decision that was going to save or end lives.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then they never talk about it. Even the petty officer who died, although we never see it, is at least mentioned as getting a memorial service at 1100.
Yeah.
These guys, they die and then they are never spoken of again. No one tries to go get the bodies. We're not even going to worry about them. We don't even say their names. He doesn't ask. He's not concerned. And I was at least thinking about I just cost 3 men's lives and we're never going to say it ever again. The least I could do is all right, who were they?
Yeah.
And then have their names written down on the log or whatever, and then you move the fuck on. But there isn't anything that gives them their humanity either, and that's a problem for me. It is simply there as a plot device, and there are too many of those in this film. That's ultimately going to be part of the issue I have. Almost done. Gandolfini showing up and going away, I think was not just about them having stuff for him and then they cut it, and that's very possible. I think part of it is, if he's there at those integral scenes of chaos and destruction and Denzel Washington making decisions that ultimately saves lives and the ship, and James Gandolfini is in any way present for any of that, then it'd be a lot harder for him to suddenly want to bust Gene Hackman out.
Yeah.
If he's questioning him throughout the whole thing and it's viewed to be wrong, it turned out to be wrong later on, then even worse, he's okay, fine, you're just being a stubborn ass about it. But there is no even tension between him and Denzel Washington to get to that point. He just takes it upon himself, yeah, the ship's going down. How the fuck would you know? Where the hell have you been? And so that is a very convenient way of trying to move the story along to a point where they want it to go. That's it. And it's unearned, again, to me. I'm just going to help her out. Yeah. Come on, baby girl. Come on. There we go. Good girl. All right. I'm almost done.
Check.
All right. So, the last things that I will say are not so much about the film, but about the context in which they were made. And I feel like this movie was made to a certain extent in a not a rebuttal, but in a reaction to Bill Clinton's presidency. Because I don't know if you guys remember, and I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Bill Clinton, when he was elected, was the first American president to never have served in the military. That was a big fucking deal when he got elected. It was viewed by a lot of people as unelectable. And when he became elected, there was still controversy about his ability to serve as commander-in-chief when he did not have any military service. If he could do that properly, is he to be respected? And that was a issue he dealt with throughout his presidency. It wasn't the biggest one. Lord knows he had plenty of bigger ones later on. But that was one that was there. And I think from some elements of veterans or armed services groups or individuals who felt that this was a liability. And this movie seems to be a reflection of that concern.
Yeah.
And that you have somebody who is clearly untested serving in, granted, maybe a new world, but let's be real, it's not that new. And I don't know if this person is worthy or up to the job. And I think that's ultimately kind of what they were getting. And I don't think it's really necessarily bad. I just felt like that's an important thing to point out. And the problem is that they just they want to do a commentary on that. And I don't think they did a very good job in doing so. I think there are a lot of failures on their part in getting there. I understand what they're trying to do. I think there are a lot of things they did right, but not enough.
Yeah.
Because there was always overshadowed by something like, oh yeah, this scene was great, except it ended this way. Oh yeah, this scene was great, but there was no feeling of earnedness there, so it doesn't really impact as well. That's that sort of thing. Hans Zimmer sounds amazing, but he's there 24/7. Like that sort of thing.
Disturbed's great, but if you got it on repeat, then I'm gonna get tired of it.
Eventually. The last thing I have, I actually will not say. It's not an ugly or a bad. I think it's gonna impact how we're gonna view this film, and so I will save it for after we've done everything else.
All right.
I am now finally done.
Does the chairwoman yield her time?
I do. I am curious as to your assessment of my assessment.
I believe that you were fair.
Thank you.
There are things that I believe were nitpicky, but not enough for me to really mention.
Okay.
So I feel like you were fair.
Yes, thank you.
And you gave it a legit chance.
I tried.
That's why I thanked you over here near the end of it, because I could tell that you were legitly... You weren't searching for what's wrong with this movie. You were legitly sitting back and letting it wash over you and seeing how you felt.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Juicy.
Wow.
Bad.
Shit.
Do you have anything new
Where do I start? I'm trying to get comfortable, trying to get my thoughts together, because that was a lot, and it was, I'll be honest, it was a little overwhelming. Just a bit.
If there's one word to describe Ari, it's kind of like a tidal wave.
I can see a lot of your, I see a lot of your points that I can and will agree with. Obviously, for my first viewing, it's not something I'm catching up on right away. But now that I'm like hearing you talk about them, I do see it. I do agree with you that a lot of moments are unearned. The hows do not justify the whys.
Yeah.
When now that I hear you talk about it from your perspective, and I'm reviewing those scenes in my mind, I agree. The hows do not justify the whys.
And that's, I think, ultimately what my argument has been. Whatever.
And I can see that while Matt wants to justify the why it's happening in the context of the story, it doesn't mean it doesn't justify why it was written.
Yeah.
Or
how it was executed.
Or how it was exactly. Or how it was executed. Gandolfini not being around for a lot of the movie is definitely a major factor, because he just shows up after the tension, or after
the bilge scene.
After the bilge scene, yes. Let me start
at
there.
At the very least, he could have shown that he was busy someplace else.
Yeah, they cut to every other major player, or
Vossler got more screen time.
Yeah, Vossler got more screen time than Gandolfini, and that's the thing, because like Vossler getting so much screen time was to justify that he was going to be on Denzel's side. If we had gotten more of Gandolfini reacting to everything that was going on, and instead of like those little comments by the one sonar guy, why don't we just fire now?
Yeah.
Or I guess mostly him, cutting to Gandolfini making comments about the decisions that were being made.
Yeah.
Then it would definitely justify the reasoning for him breaking the chain of command and going to the captain to break the captain out, because he just kind of shows up and he's like, I want to talk to the captain.
Yeah.
Like, okay, why? Like, there were orders given.
Yeah. No, yeah, he just they just let him bully them into letting them in.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then from there, he launches a fucking mutiny.
And I get it. He's a superior officer, but again, there was a chain of command. Orders were given. Yes, Washington broke the chain of command, but he had reason, just as Hackman had reason following his orders. I think the problem with this movie, for me, is again the conflict of following orders and the question of ethics.
It sets up logic and then violates its own logic.
And I think part of it is when you have a militaristic, when you're doing a militaristic movie, you expect basically everybody else who's not a major character is a yes man. They are a yes men, no men. They are there to just follow orders. And honestly, if you're not the captain or the XO, your opinions are invalid.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this movie is telling us. Apparently up to a certain point, because then I guess you could just break the captain out whenever the fuck you feel like it. If we had gotten a little bit more in the beginning with the other two, Zimmer and the other guy, if we had gotten more to establish their relationship with Hackman's character, the way they did for what's his name?
Wait, which one are you talking
about?
Vigo?
No, not Vigo. The other one. The chief of the boat.
Oh,
Cobb.
Cobb.
I don't even know. I think chief of the boat is what Cobb stands for. I don't know if they've given him an actual fucking name.
Maybe not. But
it's possible.
it is possible. But if they had given them more time, like they did Cobb, to establish their relationship, it would have made more sense as to why he did recruit them. So I will agree with you on that, because it's kind of just, oh, I trust XYZ, but we don't.
We need XYZ.
And Tony Scott is just kind of like, oh well, I don't need to explain it. You just have to. We're gonna trust that you understand, like, oh.
And that is my problem with this film. It assumes that we are supposed to trust them a lot.
Yeah.
And they don't establish any of that.
And I get that now, that after the fact, because I see it. And again, same thing with the fire, because the fire just happens out of nowhere. Hell's kind of running amok. And it's the scene, like you mentioned, I think you mentioned it, plot armor is you make... You set up your protagonist and your antagonist at that moment. Hackman's the bad guy. He's the antagonist. Denzel's the protagonist. This is the beginning to start their opposing views. The line Hackman uses, the last line after that whole debacle. The reason he died was because he was 300 pounds. Fat shaming. It was unnecessary, and it was written during a time again, because he was overweight. Not not for other reasons other than the fact that he was overweight.
Well, and the fact that they is a weird decision to include it afterwards, except to make the point that Hackman was basically trying to defend himself.
No, and I see that, and I get it, and I like, it rubbed me the wrong way now.
Yeah.
In 2024. Like.
Well, I think it runs Denzel the wrong way.
And it rubs him the wrong way at the same time too, because he sees that it was unnecessary. That's not what caused it. We don't know what necessarily caused it. You didn't need to be an asshole about it.
Yeah. Basically.
Like, a man just died and you're commenting on his weight.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
Strange to say, I hope that Paddington and Paddington 2 are on the list.
Oh gosh, what else? Oof, man, I'm
Ready to move on to Ugly?
I can see the racial towing that you were talking about. It's more so just that conversation about the Spanish horses. That was
a weird decision to.
But they also immediately disregard it to make it not racial. The reason I say that is because he's like, yeah, Lipizzano stallions, most trained horses in the world. They're all white, and it's a very racial comment at that point, right?
No, I don't
and he fires back with. He doubles down on it because Denzel's still like in the middle of trying to fight for his life here, and he's like, "Huh?" And he's like, "The Lipizzaners, they're all white, or yes, you understand that they're all white, or yes, you've seen them."
No, you've ridden them, or you
No, it's all white.
Yeah, and
no, the white thing comes after the fact that he acknowledged, like after he brings up the conversation, after he starts the conversation.
So he doubles
the conversation. The conversation starts with, speaking of horses, the Zippernzatter stallions
from Portugal.
The majestic creature's like, wait, what? Because he caught him off guard. Like they're having this tense moment. After everything that's gone down, it's like we're having this kind of like quiet, tense moment between these two characters, and there's just this weird. It's that weird icebreaker conversation going back to the discussion they had at the beginning of the movie. At the beginning of the movie about the horses, and he asked the question. He's like, he brings it up. Denzel replies like, "What?" Oh, and he's like, "Oh, yes, sir." And then Hackman's like, "Yes, sir. What? You've seen that? You know about him, or you've seen them?
Or you're aware they're all white?
Or you're no.
Yes,
he does. That's where he says it.
I could have sworn that was
no. That was the whole problem, was that he repeats it.
Yeah, he doubles down on it, and then Denzel responds with, "Yes, I've seen them. Yes, I'm aware they're all white.
But they're from
Spain, not Portugal. And when they're born, they're all black.
Oh my God, Paddington 3 is coming.
They're not white. They're all black.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well."
And that's where he discharges it because Gene Hackman goes, immediately concedes the point about the color. Like, oh, I didn't know that. They are from Portugal, though. And it immediately becomes, now we just need to argue because we can't agree on anything. But go ahead.
Okay, well, again, I see it.
Yeah.
It's not prevalent. I don't know if that's the correct word.
Yeah, no, that's a word.
It's not prevalent, but it's a weird callback. I feel like it doesn't necessarily.
It's a weird thing to include. I understand why they're trying to
it seemed unnecessary, but I understand why. I think the execution was poorly done.
Yeah.
So I disagree on that one, but do you want me to say something now or later?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't think it was badly done because what I think it is so you have two places. You basically look at it from a view of countries. You have two countries that have been going to war now for a little bit.
Okay.
Right? And one country is Denzel, one country is Gene Hackman. And now, as soon as Gene Hackman gave him the 3 minutes, now there's a ceasefire. There's a treaty.
Okay.
There's a moment of peace. You don't just ignore a country you've gone to war with. At least, like, eventually. You don't always ignore it. So it's kind of an icebreaker to be like, alright, we're at a ceasefire here, we could sit in tense silence for 3 minutes, or we could pass the fucking time.
You're missing, I think, the point. Whenever you have these situations in a movie, it's not about the fact they have the conversation. It's about what the fuck did the screenwriters decide to include in that conversation. Okay. And that's what's at issue. I understand they can't just sit there by themselves in silence. They actually could. That'd be the first time they did it in the whole fucking movie. And it would have been an interesting way of doing it. But they chose not to. That's fine too. What do they decide to talk about? It's not about horses that are known for their majesticness and that they are all white, except that they're actually black when they're born. And yeah, they're not born in Portugal, they're from Spain and that sort of thing. But that's where it's a weird thing to point out that the color of the horses. I actually, if you noticed, I mentioned it before, and I'm talking about the racial coding, but I will actually kind of say that for later because it's part of the ugly, but it's not as prevalent or as much of an issue as I thought it was. That's why I didn't bring it up in any of the bad. Mm-hmm. But I do take your point about it, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish yours, and then I'll have my comments.
Okay. Well, again, like I just kind of the topic could have been something different.
Yes.
Could have been about other horses, but they put it there to essentially pay it off in the end.
With the joke.
Yeah.
Which fell flat to me.
Yes.
After everything that just happened, Gene Hackman's gonna leave with a little joke and walk his dog off into the sunset. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
You know. So I had a problem with that. Another problem I have after everything you just fucking said, like what the fuck? So going specifically about the response to Clinton going into office, more so because the statement at the end of the movie about
it's now on the president's desk.
Right. If that's the case, why is this movie? Because when we see the clip of the president, it's Clinton.
Yeah, because this is during the 90s.
Exactly. So then why is that whole little excerpt added if it's before this movie's made, before the time of this movie?
Well, it's to release the tension that this couldn't really happen, but it's also to send the message that we need to think about our decisions of who we put in charge of shit like this. But it's also to release the tension because, like you said, Jerry Bruckheimer does not like pessimistic empties. This couldn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you know. And as soon as January hits of next year, this won't happen anymore. Yeah. This can't happen, in theory. So, I think it's more of a tension reliever because, like you said, Bruckheimer does not like pessimistic endings.
No, I've not think of a single one I've ever seen where he's done that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again,
this is the closest.
Okay. I understand the why. But
aren't you tired yet?
I didn't I get it, but also why? It's I get why, but also why?
No, and I completely get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from, and I do agree. Is there any more bad that you have? Or?
No, I think. So the score.
It's our longest one, by the way.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. No,
I think we're at an hour and a half right now.
So I do agree with you with the score, because I'm listening to it. I'm hearing it a lot, and again, I don't have a problem with the score itself. The way it's when and where it's used. Yes, especially a lot during the tension, during the end of the second act, beginning of the third act, because it's there and it's made so it's there so this movie feels like it's
constantly there,
like it's supposed to be an action movie essentially.
Well, it is through dialogue.
But that's why I think it doesn't fit a Jerry Bruckheimer style.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Bruckheimer does not do heavy dialogue-driven films.
Not true.
Which one?
Isn't Armageddon a dialogue? It's
not heavy dialogue. You know.
It's pretty heavy dialogue.
No, it's not. No, don't give me that bullshit.
It is sporadic.
It has dialogue, as in every film virtually since the silent era has dialogue.
That's not fair. Okay, Top Gun.
What about it?
No, that's not Jerry Bruckheimer. That's Tony Scott. But that's another.
No, I want to.
Low action, high.
I don't think so.
That's a Bruckheimer produced.
Is it? Is that Bruckheimer?
I think it might be
produced. Great question.
I think it's Bruckheimer produced.
It doesn't feel like a Bruckheimer movie. Bruckheimer also has these weird comedy moments in his movies. Like the Silver Surfer scene in this one.
Right.
Like in The Rock stealing the Lamborghini.
He is 80 fucking years old.
Well, again, going back to it, in a movie that's meant...
Holy shit, he did do Top Gun.
Holy shit.
I'm telling you, as a producer.
Yeah, and that's I would argue that's a dialogue movie.
It's not.
No, it's not.
It's fucking not.
Dude, it's an
yes,
action
it
movie.
is.
There's no real action. It's all training.
Training is part of the action.
But it's a jet fighter movie.
Yeah.
Yes!
It's a jet fighter movie.
So it's faster.
Yeah, so exactly. So in a movie like this that's slower paced, again, it's dialogue driven, but you need to let the dialogue
breathe.
No, not just breathe,
what film are you talking about?
Command this movie.
Is this dialogue driven?
Crimson Tide?
There's points of it, but it's not really dialogue driven though.
Oh god, I would disagree.
Well, it's not. I wouldn't call it an action movie.
This one?
Yeah.
I would. It's not a great one, but I would call it action.
Okay,
movie.
well,
I think it's trying to toe that line between the two, and that's where the problem is.
And I think that's I think that's where that's the problem with the score, because the score is trying to build up the tension to make it seem very action-y.
Yes.
When it should be more dramatic.
Yes.
And that's where either you use smaller tones, or you don't use it at all.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, I see your point there.
Yeah.
And I think with that ends my bad.
Okay. So on to the ugly.
Okay.
I say I have no ugly, and I want there to be a reason.
Okay.
There's a reason I don't have ugly, because when you have enough ugly in a movie, it's a bad movie.
Right.
This is a divisive movie. But none of us are saying it's a bad movie.
Okay. Right.
No.
So, with that being said, I don't have any ugly. I have plenty of bad, and I actually agree with a lot of your bads. But I don't have any ugly. There's no moments in this movie where I'm like, this is trash.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
I don't have much ugly.
Okay.
My ugly is that there is so much bad.
Uh-huh.
But it's a totality sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not like any one thing kind of puts it over the edge for me. It's just that all the different things that I point out, it's more about the fact that a lot of stuff feels unearned. It is about, it sets up things, assumes we're supposed to trust on certain things without establishing that trust. And those are the main points to me as far as why that movie is bad. The other stuff is just delineating why that happens, or why I feel that way.
Okay.
So the fact that I have all this bad or whatever, it really gets down to those 2 points. And that's kind of the problem for me. But the only other ugly I have would be the lack of accuracy, because I did kind of do a little bit of a dive, not very much, but I did try to see how to put the tie in terms of accuracy, whatever. It's pretty fucking awful.
Oh, is it?
We have this kind of class ship, and we have submarines, and then everything else, the way in which we have those somewhat orders, but a whole bunch of other shit would never, ever, ever happen on a submarine or be allowed to happen.
Okay.
The dog is probably one of the weirdest fucking things about it. That's consistently everyone's like, no, you would never be able to bring a dog on top of a fucking submarine. That's never gonna happen. Number one, where the fuck is it gonna shit?
Well,
but that was one of the things, as far as inaccuracy, that was the most consistent number one fucking thing.
But they do have a line of dialogue for that.
That doesn't matter. The reality is that would never be allowed to fucking happen. It doesn't matter who the fuck it is.
Okay.
That's the point. But that's not major point of ugly. It's just in general the lack of accuracy. But there are a lot of movies that fail at the accuracy that I still give a pass to.
Yeah.
I still have to at least acknowledge that it's wildly inaccurate.
That's fair.
The last thing that I would point out that I put as part of the ugly, but it's really just a solidification of the bad, is the ending. And I'm going to go ahead and just say what happens. And that is the off the record for the record.
Ambiguity.
You can do ambiguity if you like. I never agree to such things.
Alright, go ahead.
This is, we did spoilers.
Yes, we've done plenty of spoilers. So it is, for me, it is the ending of off the record for the record. It is basically, the idea is that point I brought up before about having 2 equally important and right equal points of views, so which one is wrong? And the movie tries to set it up that they are both equally right. But in the end, even Gene Hackman is like, I was wrong. And it is then reinforced by the full weight of the United States Navy when they accept his resignation and give command to Denzel Washington's character.
Not command. They give him his next possible assignment.
They give him a command.
Don't taint his record based on this.
They recommend that he get a command.
XO.
I think it's going to be a command.
I think I could have sworn they said command. It was either command or assignment.
One of the 2.
He will have no repercussions for what happens.
Yeah, basically.
The fact that somebody on the synopsis calls it a mutiny, to me, let's just go back real quick. What Denzel Washington does is not a fucking mutiny. The other guy, and just think about it for a second, why you should not, as a commanding officer, or the captain of a sub, a nuclear sub, be like, okay, we have these orders, we gotta go ahead and do this. And the other guy's like, I don't agree, I don't want to do it, and then you take him out and place it with somebody else who's a sycophant at that point and will do whatever you say. There's a reason why those 2 people are supposed to have their own independent minds on what they're doing. If they're not in the same conjunction, there's a fucking problem. It's not a breakdown of authority. It's actually it being executed the way it's supposed to work. You guys have to be on the same page. And if you're not, there's a problem. But that doesn't mean you go forward anyway or take out whoever you doesn't agree with. That's not how this works. And so everything that Denzel Washington does, once he establishes that, no, we shouldn't continue with our orders. Now, the problem is, of course, obviously, the crux of it is, well, those orders are invalid, so we should ignore that they existed. But you're also human beings in the middle of a fucking possible nuclear war. You should at least think about it before you just nuke everyone else into oblivion.
Yeah. And
so, at the end, when the tribunal or whatever the fuck is convening on this.
Council.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a court martial. I don't think it's, but it's essentially some sort of council.
It's a debrief. Yeah.
Yeah, they're reviewing what happened. Like, this is a fucking shit show, and they're right because it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically saying that you were either both right and you guys were both wrong. And I don't know that I agree with that estimation, but I think part of that's because the movie wants me to think that they're both right and both wrong at the same time, but they don't get me there. And I get other people there, and so they're just me being me. And I might be biased to Denzel Washington, so obviously. But the point is that I don't think they do a good job of being actually showing this is an equal conversation, and then they put their thumb on the scale at the end, as opposed to just leaving it as being up for interpretation truly, by actually giving us a verdict that says, this guy was wrong, he even admits that he was wrong, this guy was right. And that's going to be my actual ugly for this film, is that they tried very hard to set this up as very much, both sides are equal, both sides are wrong, but then they devalue their own, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but basically they devalue their own point by saying, no, actually, your person's right.
Yeah, picking a side.
Yeah. So, you guys can't do that. You guys have to either leave it alone or don't have the argument in the first place.
I can see that.
So.
Alright. That is your ugly, Juice.
Upon first viewing, I don't have an ugly.
Okay. So, again, nothing that really just breaks it for you.
No.
I have something I want to ask before we get into stream it, love it, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, okay.
I am curious. Because this movie oftentimes draws comparisons from another. There's a few. They mention it. It's kind of interesting because they're talking about other submarine movies. And it's kind of because they're trying. I feel like they're kind of getting meta with it a little bit. They're obviously a submarine movie talking about other submarine movies.
Yeah.
They bring up one of my favorites with Clark Gable.
One Side One Deep?
Yeah.
I've never seen it actually.
I watched it without you. And it was right after I watched Crimson Tide. And I was like, I want to find more submarine movies. And I found that one. And Clark Gable is fucking phenomenal.
Clark Gable is fucking phenomenal.
Because you had also just showed me Gone with the Wind for the first time, I believe. Around that time.
Okay.
So I was like, oh yeah, I need to check this out.
How the fuck did I'm so disappointed in you. Why would you watch that without me? It's fine, whatever. We'll get into this afterwards.
Doing something?
We'll get into this afterwards. I'm so disappointed in you, though. It's fine. but I'm just kidding. The point is that, I'm not really, but the point is that, that means we're going to watch the movie now. The point is that they're aware there are submarine movies talking about other submarine movies, and they're trying to make these comparisons. But the problem is that they also invite another comparison for another Cold War era questionable perspective movie, which is The Hunt for Red October, which is also full of stars and also well done, and also this kind of shouldn't we narrative that goes on. And so my question to both of you is, I know you've seen it. Have you ever seen it?
Which one?
The Hunt for Red October.
That I believe is on my list.
Okay, so the answer is no. Which one have you seen first?
This.
And I feel like that's going to utterly kind of it might also impact your.
I could be wrong. I'm sorry. No, continue.
I feel like it can impact. It's kind of like which one you see first in terms of a cover versus the original
Deep
song.
Impact versus Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two very different tones. Same movie.
Basic idea. Yeah.
And that's the thing is I see Hunt for Red October as an absolute classic like this one in my opinion. But I have a special place in my heart for this one because I did see it first. And it's the same thing with Armageddon and Deep Impact. I see now, as a film watcher, I see Deep Impact as the better movie, but I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Armageddon because I saw it first and I got so attached to it first.
I don't remember which one I saw first, honestly, because they came out around the same time.
Yeah.
But I think I did see Deep Impact first. I think it was released first. But I saw both of them in the theaters. But I take your point because you're right. Hunt for Red October, I've obviously seen before, not obviously,
multiple times,
but I've seen at least a handful of times before I saw this film.
Super good.
And it is super good. And
Tom Clancy movie, by the way.
Huh?
Tom Clancy movie, by the way.
And when I watch, and that's going to be probably, I think, where some of the issues I have with this film. If I had never seen Hunt for October, I probably would not be as upset with this film. Is that the other one invites a natural comparison, and it's hard to see some of the brushstrokes with this film that you don't necessarily see with the other one.
Well, and the other thing is when you're comparing to a Tom Clancy, any war movie to a Tom Clancy movie, it's like comparing any generic spy film to an Ian Fleming movie. In my opinion, because Ian Fleming has its own universe when it comes to James Bond. So every spy movie almost gets compared to James Bond, or at least it did for a time.
That's fair.
So when it comes to war movies, Tom Clancy's like the name in American war.
Well,
movies, video games.
But then we also have things like
books.
Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, Saving Private Ryan. That's a war movie. That is not going to be naturally committing a comparison from Tom Clancy.
No, because Tom Clancy is more of the espionage side of American war.
So we're not going to compare all war movies to Tom Clancy movies.
That's fair. Fair.
But I would say with those two specifically, because there are a lot of similarities in terms of the story that they're trying to tell, and in terms of like the method in which they're doing it. Right? Yeah. It's not just, they're like outside the water and we're looking in a sub. We are in an actual submarine and seeing how it works. And I think that some of the ways in where this film doesn't work is because Tom Clancy, and I can't speak to the actual director or any of that. I don't know who actually wrote and directed the film. I know that it's based off of Tom Clancy film, screenplay possibly, or teleplay or whatever, or like
book.
It was book or something. And so like whoever.
Tom Clancy is an author that made a series of books based on the secret agent or the special agent Jack Ryan.
Right.
Whereas Ian Fleming is someone who made a series of books based on the secret agent, special agent James Bond.
Yes.
They're literally English and American versions of each other.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
However, with Hunt for Red October, which I feel like I have to mention, is that, for example, there are scenes where they have the two submarines, like the Hunt for the Red October and the American sub, that are literally kind of passing each other. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, you're having these conversations between Sean Connery and Sam Neill about what they want to do and why they were like doing what they're doing and blah blah blah. So that's character development that's going on right now. Other scenes will also show an American sonar operator explaining to a new sonar operator some of the important things to consider. That it's exposition, but it's done so well you don't feel like it's exposition. It lets you know how a submarine works, so that you understand decisions that are made by the characters later.
Yeah, I get that.
And this is poorly done exposition or none at all.
Okay.
And that is one of the hallmark reasons why I will always prefer Hunt for Red October, because it doesn't insult my intelligence by trying to explain things, where I feel like the other one does, because it never explains a fucking thing. It assumes I don't need to know it, and I do.
I think the problem therein is that maybe this movie puts a little bit too much trust in the audience to assume that you know how submarine operations works, and I think that's where the problem is. Compared to Hunt for Red October, just off of your statement.
I wish that was the case, but I feel like it is actually a bit of laziness on their part.
Okay.
They are trying to get an action film in the 90s, which this is the same people who did Bad Boys and The Rock and I think Con Air, and like these are junk food action films. And don't get me wrong, I love every single last fucking one of them. Yeah. And I watch it all the time, but they also at times explain things to me that I need to know. They leave other shit out, and I don't need to know, so my brain will fill it in. This one was one of those where they needed to explain stuff to me and they chose not to, and I think it's because they honestly didn't think that it was important enough for me to know it.
Okay.
So.
All right. So.
Before you get into that,
what's the next?
Strange says, rookie mistake, Matt. Never admit you watch something without the wife.
At this point, it's whatever.
Yeah. I believe now we get.
Do we do out of 10 first?
Yeah.
Or rent it, stream it, buy it?
No. Scores.
Okay, so out of 10,
you go last.
Start with you, hon.
I believe that's the best way to go. I believe you should go last.
Yeah.
I am going to give it a 6.5.
Okay.
7 maybe, but it's going to be hovering around those two.
All right.
7.
7. Okay. 7. Because of the reasons you give, I was at a solid 8 from the start of this review, but because of the reasons you guys gave, I will go to a 7.5.
Okay.
Put it right on the same level as Bullet Train. I feel comfortable with that. So.
I thought Bullet Train, we gave it a little bit higher.
I was at a 7.5.
I was at an 8.
You guys went higher.
Yeah, I was at an 8 1/4. I think I was at 8 1/4 on it.
Yeah, I'm going by my score.
Oh, that's fine.
Like,
that's
I went
fine.
on the same level.
Okay, so then overall we are what? Like just about a 7?
About a 7, which is 7.3 on IMDb, so,
So
we're
yeah,
about
so
there.
we're about there.
Yeah, no, rent it, stream it, own it, don't bother.
Stream it.
Okay, so everyone should see it once.
I say if you're gonna watch it, don't pay to see it. Despite the fact that we did.
I concur.
Okay, I would say at least see it once, even if you have to rent it. It's usually like a $4 rental at this point because it's almost 30 years old.
Yes, I know. Jesus Christ.
No, I retract my statement. I would okay, stream it if you can.
Yeah.
If you can't, rent it.
Yeah, watch it once.
Watch it once.
Check it out. Maybe you'll love it. Maybe you'll hate it.
So then maybe we should change it to watch it once or own it. Or
it is like I think it's
no. We'll keep it at rent, stream, buy.
I think that we
buy.
need to be clear when we're saying what we mean by rent, stream, or buy, and I think that's something we need to set for the future. For me, streaming it means that
free.
It's free.
Okay.
Yeah,
like, don't go out of your way to watch this film.
I would say rent it.
Okay.
So
yeah. So I would say stream it. If you can't, then rent it.
All right. So with all that being said, and our longest discussion concluded, only got heated once, which is nice.
Yeah.
Which is nice. But I was ready. You were ready. That was a good debate, sweetheart. Well played.
Yes.
I love you.
I love you too.
Anyway.
I think with a movie as divisive as this, and this is my perspective, I think you need to let her get as much of her point out as you can before you try to interject. That's all I'm going to really say. I understand your strong feelings, and I know you need to get your point across sometimes, but like I think you need to find a little bit of a better way to interject, and that's all I'm going to say on that point. But I think this is a really great discussion. Mostly between you two.
With that being said, Juice, I believe you are up.
I believe I am. So let me go ahead and pull up the Wheel app. Let me pull up the. Yep. Let me make sure it's nice and loud.
And thank you guys for sitting through this with me.
Yep.
No, absolutely. Again, look, I've said it before. This is actually fun for me because I'm being introduced to new films that I've never seen. I've heard of them, but I've never seen them, and it's very interesting to hear everyone's point of view, especially, because again, I'm new coming into a lot of these movies. You have a fair amount of experience or a fair amount of opinion in critiquing, and she has a lot more.
Well, I would say, though, Juice, part of the hope and desire for this stream and for this discussion is not only for us to be able to get our respective perspectives out, is to also develop our eye.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too, is not just, well, this is how I feel about movies going in, this is how I'm going to stay. Like, the idea is that we are also making these points not only for ourselves, but for each other.
Yeah.
And so, by all means, take what you can use from it, if any, but don't sell yourself short. And, like, I understand, like, we may have more experience. This is how you get it.
We'll see, when it comes to, when it comes to a first watch, it's difficult for me. I'm slowly starting to see it, but whenever I watch a movie for the first time, I just kind of I take it in. I try to take in as much as I can without criticizing too much.
Well, that's the whole, and that's fine. I would say it's okay to be able to do both. Because there are a lot of times there are movies for the first time we're watching, and you're gonna have an initial reaction to it a lot of times. Yeah. Like that's just all there is to it, and you may not see things until a second rewatch or a fourth or like ninth if you get that far. Some movies, like oh yeah, now I notice this, and oh yeah, now I notice this. Now I understand this more about films, and this is why they use it this way. But it's okay to still be able to look at something for the first time critically and be like, oh, this really works for me, and then be able to reflect on why that works. And then this doesn't really work for me. Even if you can't necessarily always explain why, at least you're recognizing, okay, yeah, this felt weird for me, or this felt right, or what have you not, and then try to like think about it later if you have to.
And I've had those moments. We had that discussion last week with Raging Bull. But Strange also says this is a learning experience. I agree. He says I've learned nothing. All right, so
that's a shit ton of pieces on your wheel.
I told you I had a long list.
Good God!
You said make a list. You did not say how long or how short.
Do what you need to do. There are specific ones I want to get to. That's my list short.
And that's fine.
Until we get to them.
And that's fine. But I made a long enough list so I had my bases covered, I guess. All right, so if we are ready, I am going to spin.
Let's spin the wheel.
Wheel of reality, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
Oh wow, I've been looking forward to this.
What's that?
So, ladies and gentlemen, next week we are going through the multiverse.
Okay.
Everywhere. Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yes!
I wanted to see this movie in theaters, and because I didn't see it in theaters, I knew I wanted to watch it at some point. And when we started this was where I wanted to be able to experience it everywhere.
I'm so happy.
All the time.
We have not seen that film, and I like to see it because I know it's supposed to be really good, and I also like to see the performance that Jamie Lee Curtis did that's won her the Oscar over Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, this is a first watch for everybody.
Another one.
So that's fantastic.
This is exciting. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, maybe not boys and girls. This was a good time. This was Crimson Tide. Divisive as shit.
Hell yeah.
What a highly praised movie. People said it was a 10 out of 10. I gave it, I don't know what I gave it.
A 7.5.
Everything everywhere. I think I saw everything everywhere.
Everything everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, find out how we feel about it next week when we review Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yep.
And Friday, make sure that you come up as we are rolling into the third act of Mass Effect. And Ari's starting to get somewhat invested. So make sure you join us for the rest of that. We're going to call it here. Like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon for No Common Entertainment. This is Matt.
This is Ariane.
And this is Juice.
We're out.
Ow. That's Newt.
Have a good one, y'all.
Bye.